Hello Redditors, welcome back to Tales Against Humanity. Now, let's get started. In today's episode, you'll never guess what brought down our network today. C is for cat, capture card, and USB-C. Business points fingers SR. Deb breaks them off. Subnet and mask are the same thing, right? Our company's corporate office internet and phone connections were down all day today. Finally, in the last few minutes of the day, my supervisor, who's the head of the IT department, called me with our telecom company on the line, and they told me and my IT coworker that they had found that a certain IP address was causing the entire network to go down. It was pushing our main network server to over 75% CPU use. Single-digit percentages were normal, so we go through unplugging network cables all throughout the office until finally there's one where they say that's it. That's the one. But it was a docking station, so we reconnected the docking station and started unplugging things that were connected to it. Finally, we unplugged the thing that seemed to be the cause of all our problems. It was a wired mouse. Now, let's go for story 2. C is for cat, capture card, and USB-C, another of my streamer tech support stories. Cast. $me, the green streamer of mere months but uses his tech enthusiasm and programming skills to help others have a less problematic experience. Choco, the star of the story, an artist who does game and art streaming in her free time. I'd helped her set up some stuff before and she knows I'll help as soon as I can if something is wrong. Nico, the star of my first story, but merely a bystander in this one. The plan was simple. $me, Choco, and Nico were going to play Mario Kart 8 with our communities joining in while streaming each of our own points of view. Me and Nico do console streaming regularly, but it had been a while for Choco, and she was having issues, making her HDMI capture card play ball, so I was called up to help. It was the usual Discord call with screen share, and previous experience working with Choco had shown this to be trouble-free enough. My friends are awesome. They ask great questions, are happy to learn, and are good at following instructions. Initially, it was a case where she'd just forgotten how to add it to Open Broadcaster software. I showed her how to add it and helped her optimize the settings to make it smoother to use down the line. That's where the simple bit stopped. As I was showing her how to configure her second monitor to disconnect it from Windows so she could use it for gameplay, the capture card simply disappeared from the system. My experiences with HDMI capture cards can be summarized in 2 short sentences. USB capture cards are flakes. PCI capture cards are rock solid. Choco's capture card used a USB 3 Type-C connection, so I was prepared for their special brand of awkwardness. First, we tried unplugging and reconnecting all connections, as my experience with USB capture cards had led me to usually sort problems like this. The issue was this time it didn't. We'd literally seen this card working seconds ago as a source in OBS, so the question was now what had changed. Thinking through what we had done between it working and it not working, it occurred to me that while we'd been playing with the monitor, she had moved things around for cables to $me. Can you just check the cables, please? I've seen this before where a dodgy cable can make something just vanish like this. Choco. A pauses, oh no, that little bastard better not have. $me. It would seem you may have an idea. A few moments pass, and I can hear her scrabbling behind the PC. Choco. My cat likes to chew things, and I bet this was a cable I forgot to put bitters on. She sends me a photo of a USB A to C cable with very obvious bite marks in, not enough to break the outer sheath, but I'd bet enough to break wires inside. She then sends me a pic of the Lynx Point Siamese, culprit looking incredibly pleased with himself. I help her pick out an appropriate replacement cable at Best Buy and she goes and gets it. We connect it up, tests that it connects and works, and all seems good. It's at this point where I expected this tale to end, but there was more pain ahead. Given she felt out of practice, Choco has the idea to do her own practice, stream a couple. All seemed to be going fine initially. She was streaming, the usual Mario Kart, rubber banding was spicing up races, and everyone was having fun. Then the card froze. The stream was still working from OBS, but the game capture was a freeze frame and Choco said the same was true for the display on the pass-through. You could hear the Windows USB connection sounds as she unplugged and replugged it, and it seemed to behave again. However, then it repeated itself, twice. Now I was puzzled, as this has been working fine until now. With a quick bit of live troubleshooting, I knew the following. It was definitely the capture card in some way. If it was OBS, the HDMI pass-through wouldn't freeze, and if it was the game console, replugging wouldn't help, and we'd see the console error. The HDMI cables were fine, nothing had been moved between working and not, and there were no bite marks. The device itself had not disconnected until she pulled the cable, as it was still outputting the freeze frame to OBS, which it was happily broadcasting. I didn't bother asking about heat, as the room wasn't hot, and if these devices overheat, naturally it's already an unfixable major issue, and even if it was cool, this was still a faulty device. My assessment was that the simplest solution was new capture card, as this was not an issue we wanted to potentially put up with regularly, as it spoiled everyone's fun when it happened, and there was no real reproduction case for us to try and find out what was actually happening. Dollar Choco begrudgingly agreed with this assessment, especially when she saw the price, but was sweetened on the model of capture card I suggested when I mentioned one less wire for the cat to destroy and more reliable to boot. Our group event is in 2 days, so she orders a new one for overnight delivery. It's at this point I should mention the time difference between me and Dollar Choco. She is on the US West Coast, I am in the UK, and this is during the 2-week window where the US is on DST, but the UK is not. We're looking at a 7-hour time difference, so we're hoping it'll arrive in the morning to mid-afternoon her time, so I can help guide during installing it before I go to sleep. It arrives at 8 p.m. her time / 3 a.m. my time. It's getting set up in the 3-hour window between me finishing work and our event starting. In my infinite wisdom, I'd pointed her at the Linus Tech Tips video where the build guide was from his POV, and I'd shown her on a diagram where the card needed to go in her system. So by the time I was free from work came around, the card was in the computer, and it was just a simple matter of pointing her at the drivers. Again, I'm hoping this is it and we're good, but no, another wrinkle comes, in that the sound from the capture card is awful and choppy. I'm hoping this card isn't DOA, and I'm frantically Googling for a solution. I find a trend in solution rather quickly. An incompatibility with a newer Win 10 build and a firmware update. This was the same model capture card I used, and I recalled that during my setup, it had updated the firmware on the card itself. But this hadn't happened in her case for some reason, so this seemed like a fair bet. A different driver, and a firmware update later, and it's sorted. 4 to 5 minutes before we were due to go live. The gaming goes well, we have fun, and all are thankful that Dollar Choco did that practice run 2 days prior to unearth that secondary issue. Now, let's go for story 3. Business points fingers SR. Dev breaks them off. Business doesn't keep track of their documentation very well, and coupled with a lot of turnover, results in large volume of blaming IT when results aren't what they wanted. After many meetings and reviews, business declares that the system must be fixed or face consequences. The system isn't broken, it's doing what the business requested, and it also logs all the actions it takes. SR. Developer finally has enough and modifies the logging process to track actions by project. It did not take long for the business to come pointing fingers again. This time, SR. Developer pulled up the log files, showed everyone the project number, pulled up the requirements, and then asked what was the issue when the system is doing exactly what the requirements said to do. Business backpedaled and stopped the meeting. Business incompetence begins to show, and they started to go after each other playing the blame game. IT now just sits back and just waits for the next change. SR developer says they fixed the system, the business. Now, let's go for story 4. Subnet and mask are the same thing, right? So, I admittedly am not the most intelligent man in the world. I have not college degree, and my education has been experience and certifications. I work in a company that installs hardware and software for certain municipalities. The IT guys I work with are great, very highly educated, and make way more than me. However, out of the last 5 cases I've worked, 3 of them have come down to the below conversation. Me. So the device has to be on the same subnet as the computer them. Well, you can't have 2 devices on the same subnet. Me. What? Them. Yeah, once we give them the same subnet, they have a conflict, like a MAC address. Okay, so admittedly I had to look something up. Agent, not the most intelligent, but I tend to learn and can adapt. Me. I think I might have something confused. When you look at the network for the PC, it should be IP. The device we installed is programmed for IP. I am seeing the PC is now pinging it IP them. Yeah, we moved the PC, but we changed the subnet, so they will be the same. Me? Okay. That screws up the configuration when you move it. What part did you change to make it on the same subnet? Them? Well, we changed it to 255. You can see it in the network settings. I look, different subnets. They changed the subnet mask to be the same. Me? I still don't know a tactful way to respond. Make sure to like and subscribe for more interesting stories.